The Fabulous 413 podcast is funded by the UMass 5 College Credit Union, offering Co-op Advantage checking with cash back on all purchases, plus secure debit card controls, all from the UMass 5 mobile banking app. Insured by NCUA, umass5.coop.
Welcome to the Fabulous 413. I'm Khalees Smith.
And I'm Monty Belmonte. Later in the show, Live Music Friday with Erin McKeown as they prepare for their anti-holiday show at the Iron Horse tomorrow night.
And we're fermenting some local cheer here on today's show,
where we abandon the Wine Thunderdome for a week to allow 2 beer purveyors to enter.
But everyone will leave happy, especially if they're choosing from the incredible local selection at Ryan and Casey Liquors in Greenfield. We'll speak with Kristen Faufaw and Isaac Sissam about keeping their racks full of local brews.
And in the Berkshires, one of only 2 Latin-owned breweries in the Commonwealth is hoping to keep everyone cozy for the season.
We're at Hot Plate Brewing in Pittsfield in the back room while everybody's having a great time out there in the actual tasting room. And
Do you feel like you've joined the Skulls?
Because we're in the back room?
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
How many people have been back here, actually? So it's kind of like, you know...
It's my second time.
This is where the magic happens. Hot Plate is a brewery in Pittsfield, and you have an excellent thing going on, Mike Dell'Aquila. But before we get to that, Sarah Rael, who we've had on before as well, is doing something wicked awesome at Harvard.
Yeah, so the museum there, I believe it's the Peabody Museum of Ethnology and Archaeology, is doing an event featuring a Native American brewer, Bow and Arrow Brewing out in New Mexico. Is one of, I think, very few indigenous breweries. And so she's a featured speaker there, but Harvard wanted to surround her with a bunch of locally made beer as well. And so we were included in that event because we are the only Latina-owned brewery in Massachusetts, which we're very proud about that. And we're one of only 2 Latin-owned breweries in the whole Commonwealth. Shout out to Roundhead Brewing out in Hyde Park. They're the other Latin-owned.
Hyde Park!
So they are serving the Cream Ale, which is a nice American original. And it's actually...
It's a Wu-Tang influenced beer, right?
It is a Wu-Tang influenced beer. And it's always fun for me, who names the beers, when someone sees the Rock and the Gold Tooth and gets the lyric right out of the gate.
But Mike, we're here at Hot Plate because Hot Plate is doing something having to do with heat that is very important as we get into the colder and colder times.
That's true. This is our second year doing it. So when we first moved up here, we were part of that pandemic exodus out of New York City, and we had found out about a fundraiser that was run by an interfaith community here, the Pittsfield Area Council of Congregations, or PACC. They have a fuel fund that helps folks who can't heat their homes because they are heat insecure due to not being able to afford oil. So if you have gas or electric heat, the utility companies won't cut you off during the winter. But if you have oil and you can't afford to buy oil, there's no other way. So there are these households in Pittsfield that unfortunately slip through the cracks. Part of our own personal journey, unfortunately, we were heat insecure ourselves for a number of years when we were living in Brooklyn. You can probably look at old episodes of the Fabulous 413 to hear about that saga. But having experienced it ourselves under different circumstances, but just knowing the day-to-day challenges, it's something that you can sort of understand just on its face, like, oh, not having heat in the wintertime must be terrible. But it really is difficult on just a day-to-day basis of not wanting to get out from under the cover, start your day, walk to the bathroom, get out of the shower, and your house is freezing. There are just these little practical things during the day that make that really hard. And having gone through that, we not only feel their pain, but we now feel like this gives our journey this opportunity to come full circle where we can now use what we do here to help others. And so last year we were able, with a fundraiser beer and some other events, we were able to raise $13,000 with all the efforts that were going on in Pittsfield, not just Hot Plate alone. And that provided heat to about 200 some households. This year, the goal is $20,000. And so we got more aggressive. We made 2 batches of this beer. We canned it. We're having way more events. And we believe that the 20,000 mark will actually allow us to heat all of the eligible homes in Pittsfield. So we're getting pretty aggressive. So now that we're heading into the colder weather where it's a little bit more consistently cold and you wake up and maybe there is frost on your car, it's a little bit easier to get people to be in that mindset of like, hey, I want to go help folks who might be cold this winter.
I also was heat insecure for a couple of years, not through any of my own means. I was renting at the time, but I could not get my landlord to fix our furnace. For 2-3 years, we just didn't have heat, and it wasn't anything that we were doing.
And we're with Mike backstage, I guess, at Hot Plate Brewing in Pittsfield.
See, that's the good way to talk
I like
about it.
backstage.
We're backstage.
I love that.
I love it too. About, what's the name of the program you're calling?
Home and Hearth. Hearth, right?
So Hearth and Home is the
Hearth and
name
Home.
of the campaign, and we wanted to basically have a different name for the campaign than the beer itself, just because there are going to be a number of events that we're doing. For example, we just released a different beer, chocolate stout called Agent Cooper. The artist...
Come on!
Yes.
Following a dream I had 3 years ago, I have become deeply moved by the plight of the Tibetan people and filled with a desire to help them.
Yes.
Coffee stout, I'm
Coffee
assuming?
stout.
Hey, wait a minute,
Of course.
But the true test of any hotel, as you well know, Diane, is that morning cup of coffee.
And that goes to benefit too?
That one is going to be incorporated in the campaign in a different way. So $1 from the beer Cardia, which is our habanero chocolate stout, goes toward this fund. But the artist who does all of our label art is a local artist here, and so she donated the painting that we used for that label. That's going to be raffled off. So we're going to sell $10 raffles for the Agent Cooper label.
Do you know where dreams come from? Acetylcholine neurons fire high voltage impulses into the forebrain. These impulses become pictures. The pictures become dreams. But no one knows why we choose these particular pictures.
Someone's going to win that painting, which is a very cool painting, and the money that we raise from that, she's actually going to donate all the proceeds to this fund as well.
Please take all my money.
When you, Mike, and Sarah, who's the brewer here too, were dealing with your own heat insecurity, how did you deal with it? Like, what did you do to get through that?
Sure. So I think one of the things that we're very candid about was that we were heat insecure because of this bureaucratic nightmare with a condo that we had in Brooklyn. It was not due to us not being able to pay our bills. And I point that out only because there was a level of privilege that we got to deal with this that other folks who are heat insecure for financial reasons don't have. So when there was a cold snap coming, for example, we could just go get a hotel, or if we got really fed up with it, we could go get an Airbnb for a week or something like that. We had space heaters, which sucked, but we plugged those into the wall. But on a day-to-day basis, it was like layering up, wearing coats inside sometimes when it gets really bad. And and again, it's a situation where I just always want to make sure that I'm clear that we had some advantages that other people don't, because why it's so important to us to do this is for those who can't afford their oil. They don't have the opportunity sometimes to be like, well, I'm just going to get out of town for a week because it's about to get, in the single digits or lower. They have nowhere else to go. And that, I think, feeling of helplessness plus the physical discomfort is just, you feel very desperate, you feel very despondent, and not to mention how much of a blow to your ego, of just having to be stuck in these circumstances. And so nowadays, it's like when you turn on the heat the first day it's cold, when you turn on the hot water and you can step into a warm shower, those are things that we kind of take for granted in the modern world. And when you live without that, you realize how difficult it is to just function in kind of a day-to-day level. We tried to funnel all of that through this journey of starting this brewery. We were brewing on a hot plate at the time. That's how we got our name. And we'd have our friends over to have these tasting parties. And so we used craft beer and making beer and sharing it with our friends as something that could take our minds off of pretty much everything else that was going on. I was also working at a startup at the time that was just tanking. And so it was just like everything was, I wrote a novel that didn't sell. I mean, honestly, it was this biblical level of just my life getting dismantled.
Okay, hang on. What's your novel about?
It's based on a real life witch trial that was during the Spanish Inquisition in 1588 in Sicily. And so I'm actually editing it right now and trying to resubmit it. Everything that we were working toward was starting to get dismantled. Then COVID hit, and it just really felt like, okay, that was the straw that broke the camel's back. And we're like, if there's ever a time to make a life change, it was now. We came up here, we moved up here, we started the brewery, did all that. But last year when we got to do this fundraiser, it was the moment where all of us started to feel like it came full circle. We've always wanted to be mission driven. I know that Sarah's come on here and talked before about that mission very often is about building safe and inclusive spaces for folks who have been marginalized in the craft beer community at large, and really just as we see in society in general. But there's this layer of class in our country and just socioeconomic strata that we overlook when we talk about inclusivity. And I think that folks that are falling below the poverty line, or just even the lower middle class, when you talk about inclusivity, why it's been so effective to create this level of division in our society right now is that we're not understanding that those who are marginalized on a financial level are as marginalized as everyone else is. And I think that we've been able to use that as a wedge. It's a 19th century playbook. It probably predates that. And it's been actually kind of disappointing to see how effective this still is into the 21st century. And so I think for us, finding ways to help those that are financially disadvantaged is just as important as finding safe space for the BIPOC community, queer people, for female identifying folks. That is what we're trying to do with this business. And so I think now that we've been able to do this sort of as a second year, and for as long as we exist, we want this to be part of who we are. food insecurity is something that we all can, I think, identify with a little bit easier because you're hungry for 8 hours and everyone feels that hunger pain and knows how grumpy they are. Heat insecurity, if you haven't gone through it, it's a little bit harder to articulate like why that is impactful. And we all have limited amounts of money that we can donate to all these different causes. So for us, if we can make it sort of fun, whether you're drinking a cool beer that Sarah made or you're checking out, one of the events that has like a fundraiser hook to it, you can sort of still have a good time and help a cause. And it doesn't maybe feel like it's making as much of a dent in your wallet as just like cutting a check for something.
The socioeconomic aspect of what you just said is why Fred Hampton's message was so dangerous.
Yeah.
and why he got assassinated. Talking across color lines and across class lines to be like no, working class is working class. The class struggle is kind of at the root of this for all of us.
Part of that 19th century playbook is that when you look at like kind of that Gilded Age and the progressive movement that grew out of that same time period where you have this crazy economic disparity, the international workers of the world at that same time were trying to basically say, like, don't be divided by these sort of like artificial nations and, the way that the ruling classes sort of divided us all up. We're all kind of fighting the same fight. I think what people have really buried under American history is that period of anarchist movements that were getting really built up, the labor movement that is getting, obviously, like, we're just trying to pull up the tax of like what's left of it these days, but that all grew out of a unified group of people that were really fighting against what was really exploitative at the time. And I think we've lost sight of like that fight in a way. It all fits together, especially now that we've left our corporate lives behind and we're just kind of like flying our own freak flag and running our own business. Sarah and I both were, lower middle class people. And it was like we bought that sort of like upper middle class dream of, okay, we're going to go to college. We're going to work for corporations. We're going to work crazy hours. We're going to see our income hit a ceiling really quickly. We're going to see
respectability protocol.
Yeah, no, exactly. And we bought it hook, line, and sinker. We really believed in education. We really believed in upward mobility. And it was when those things started hitting those plateaus that you started realizing how much it was a fiction. But we had benefited from it for most of our 20s and even into our 30s. And like I said, our lives started getting kind of dismantled piece by piece for reasons outside of all of this. For me, that like kid who grew up like Rage Against the Machine, it's like, man, how did I like sell out so hard? But it's like because there was that carrot that was dangled, and I try not to like kind of self-flagellate over that, because if you feel like that's something worth chasing, it's worth chasing. And then when you sort of see the myth play out, for me, it's like, well, that's now we get to control these four walls for as long as we can, and we can do whatever we want here. And so that's why we're trying to run an ethical business here and trying to do what we can that builds that sense of community. And also, I'm not going to be that sort of petulant-based resistance person who was like, doom scrolling and firing off Twitter stuff into the void. This time around, it's like I actually have some level of agency, not much, but some level of agency through the business we run. And so it's going to be a much more sort of loving kind of resistance of just like trying to get as many people who are like-minded to know that they have a safe space here. And together we're going to build or try to keep building what we feel is the antidote. I think we're stronger when we bring everyone together and understand that those of us who don't identify with the ruling class, like we are more numerous. And we also like can't become so afraid that they steal our joy.
Community is resistance.
Yeah.
I think so.
Dark beer cannot drive out dark beer. Only light beer can do that.
Oh,
that's why you're drinking Fellini.
There
But in reality, dark beer can drive out the darkness. And that is part of what the mission is here. And we are with Mike Dell'Aquila at Plate Brewing in Pittsfield. And we are talking about their Hearth and Home fundraiser. And Khalees and Mike are drinking the dark beer. I am drinking the light beer. But this is the dark beer that is the fundraising beer.
Yeah,
so let's talk a little bit about the beer.
Yeah, please.
Sure. It's called Cardia, and that is Greek. And why I liked it was that it means both heart and hearth in Greek. And so it was like tying in that sense of just both that sort of like loving, sort of giving nature of the fundraiser beer and the fact that this was actually about like heating your home. It was inspired by Mexican hot chocolate.
You remind me today of a small Mexican chihuahua.
So it has some chocolate notes. It was brewed with dry habanero chilies. And what's nice about the dried habanero chilies is it doesn't have like a pepper taste on that first sip. It's more a warming sensation on the back of your throat after that first sip. So even when people take that first sip, their face is kind of like, oh, I thought it'd be spicier. And then it kind of like hits, like it's like a slow release.
It builds. It's great. Like you said, it's warming, like right on the back of the palate and like towards the top of the tongue. And it's not sweet because stouts, and it's low ABV also because stouts. So if you're looking for something that you can have a couple more of, it's a lot more akin to like a session.
And it gives you that warming, which is it is a living metaphor for what you're trying to do with this beer. So when I buy this beer after we're done chatting, tell me about what will happen with the money that I spend on this beer.
$1 from the pint of each of the beers we sell in the tap room is going to go to a fund that is administered by the Pittsfield Area Council of Congregations. We're also going to donate a portion of the proceeds that come from the cans. And then that's going to go to a fund along with everything we do in the tap room. I also believe that the way that it's going to get dispersed this year, so they were able to lock in the oil prices in the summertime when they were lower, and they're going to administer them on a needs-based basis. And they've also encouraged people to like kind of wait till the need is at its highest. For the eligible households, it's kind of like you get one chance for the year to get your disbursement. So they're trying to have people kind of wait it out a little bit so that it can stretch like into the winter. But the goal, again, is if we can hit $20,000, they believe that will be able to meet the need for all the eligible households, which will be somewhere between 200 and 300 households this year.
Tell me about the Agent Cooper beer.
Sure. So the Agent Cooper beer actually grew out of the fact that we just started selling Six Depot coffee in the tap room. One of the things that we started thinking about as we started thinking about growing this business was, we pay rent on 24 hours of this space, and we were only open for a portion of those hours. We also saw that on the weekends, and even sometimes on the weekdays, that folks would come in here, but they weren't necessarily ready for a beer at either noon or 3 p.m. So we started thinking about what can we do to kind of expand what we're doing. We're still dead set against having kind of a commercial kitchen because we still want to allow people to bring in outside food and also don't want to run a restaurant.
Yeah.
But coffee was sort of a natural complement to kind of what we were doing. And a lot of the people that come during the day use the place like a traditional third space where they're doing meetings or doing some work solo or something like that. And so we wanted to roll that out. Six Depot was just my personal favorite coffee roaster in Berkshire County. And so we teamed up with them. And so the most obvious way to bring the two streams now together was to make a coffee stout. And then I am just such a huge David Lynch fan.
And if you can believe it, it's a Friday once again.
And so it was such an easy beer to find a sort of like group of nerds who, as soon as they saw that name, would get pretty much as excited as you do. So when people like see like Agent Cooper, it's like they just light up because they get the reference right out of the gate. And so yeah, and we named it a damn fine coffee stout.
This is, excuse me, a damn fine cup of coffee.
Like I said, take all my money.
You have a concert happening for Hearth and Home on the 7th?
That's correct. 3 or 4 times a year, we have this local cover band called Mr. Doubtfire that is really fun. And if you are an elder millennial like me, their playlist just really hits home. It's like all late 90s, early 2000s, like all the things you love to hear and dance to. We really want to create a space for artists making original music. However, Mr. Doubtfire is just a really fun time, and I think sometimes it's okay if you have some sugar to go down with the medicine. And so because we know they pack the place and they have a really good following and everyone has a good time when they come out here and the vibe's always really positive, we wanted that to be the benefit show. We want to have this sense of like doing something charitable doesn't have to always feel painful. You don't always have to be walking all over, to raise money for something. But like,
You don't
Really?
yeah.
You don't
There's
always-
other ways to do this?
And walking 43 miles.
Yeah.
Dang it! Why didn't somebody tell me sooner?
Yeah. No, as a former Catholic, I definitely get the...
I'm going to self-flagellate.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
I totally get the suffering, through salvation. But
Yeah.
but in all honesty, I think it's like the more that you can sort of like feel good and have that sort of like warm fuzzy from helping something important, to me, it's like it doesn't have to be negative and you can still feel good that you're helping someone, but you can have a good time as well. And I mean, most nonprofits are starting to understand this with like galas and stuff like that. It's just like, honestly, if you have people at a gala and you're plying them with drinks, they're going to open up their wallet. But,
I'm about to.
Thanks again to Mike Dell'Aquila at Hot Plate for spending so much time with us. Coming up, live music to combat your holiday blues and bring all of us closer together with Erin McKeown for their anti-holiday show tomorrow night, the name of which would incur serious FCC fines if we said it on the air.
But next, local beer escape part 2 as we browse the shelves at Ryan and Casey Liquors in Greenfield on the hunt for brews from the 413.
You're listening to the fabulous 413 on 88.5 NEPM.
The Fabulous 413 podcast is funded by Northeast Solar, helping customers make the switch to solar for savings, energy security, and tax incentives. Learn more at northeast-solar.com.
Time for Local Hero Spotlight with Claire Morneau from Sissam, the local hero, folks. And we are at Ryan and Casey in Greenfield with Kristie Faufaw. No?
Ryan and Casey Liquors.
What did I say? Ryan and Casey in
You
Greenfield.
just said, everybody says just Ryan and Casey. It's Ryan and Casey Liquors. I spent a long time building that brand.
All right, fine.
Casey Liquors.
Ryan and Casey Liquors.
Yep. And we've got our beer manager, Isaac Sissam, here too.
Who happens to be?
My son.
And before we get into talking about local beer, we got to talk about other local talent because you are wearing a Minuteman Marching Band Power and Class Band Parent vest, Kristie.
Hell yeah. Emily Sissam, saxophone section.
And just did the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade last week.
Yes, in the pouring rain.
It was the only part of the parade that I caught. A UMass band doing their cross across the stage was the only part of the parade I bothered to watch.
I cry so many times during that parade. I don't know why, and then when the UMass kids were there, I had gone to band day already this year. I totally lost it.
Very proud.
Yeah. Did you go or did you watch on TV?
I couldn't go because it was right before Thanksgiving, so we're dedicated to here.
Thanksgiving is the only day legally still in Massachusetts that you have to be closed. Is that true?
Christmas too.
Oh, Christmas too. It used to be 3, right?
Yeah, Memorial Day. We still close Memorial Day. It's not in the budget. Keep everybody having a day off right before it gets crazy for the summer.
What Ryan and Casey, despite the name, branding, Ryan and Casey Liquors is famous for.
Even though we're in the wine section.
Yeah, we've migrated to the end of the wine section to the beer cooler, which we have called for many years on my old station the mile-long cooler, because you got so many beers here.
Yes, exactly. We have over 500 beers right now. We've had as much as 800 at different points. As far as local stuff, we probably have over 100 local beers. And we actually have it sectioned out, so there's 5 coolers dedicated to Massachusetts. It starts in Western Mass, and you work your way over towards Boston. So
is it set up like a map?
A little bit. We've kind of talked about doing that, but sort of.
I wore my brick and feather hat to represent. Oh, they'll be back at it.
Yeah, they will be.
As opposed to like my 8-pack of building 8 original IPA, which I kind of have to like hold close to my chest.
Yeah.
That was a bummer.
Well, let's talk a little bit about that, Kristie and Isaac from Ryan and Casey Liquors, about beer. There is something happening in the beer movement right now where there was this, slow build with BBC and then People's Pint down the street and Northampton Brewery began at the very beginning. Then there's been an explosion over the last 10 or 15 years, and now is that bubble of beer bursting?
It's not bursting because there's still new ones opening up, but some of the mainstays are starting to leave, such as Hitchcock, Building 8, Brick and Feather. That is sad because they're all great local brands.
But it's kind of a sign of a local trend too, because you've seen some of the larger craft breweries close, like when Anchor announced that they were closing. Like that was a giant, weird wake-up call for craft beer because Anchor's been around for ages.
And when we think of craft beer, I think when I was a kid, there was like Bud, and then all of a sudden Sam Adams popped up, and then that seemed like a craft beer at the time. Now that's kind of a juggernaut too, but still percentage-wise is still a very small percentage of the amount of beer that people are buying, right?
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, we're looking at the big Coors and Busch and Bud section right over there.
We don't have to pay attention.
The banquet beer.
That's my Sam Elliott. The Coors banquet beer.
Coors, the banquet beer.
Should we talk about that or beef?
Beef stroganoff.
Sam Elliott voiceovers are the best.
Yes, but just the way he says beef makes me uncomfortable.
Beef.
What is the best, worst beer?
The best, worst beer. I'm not sure exactly what you mean by that, but I kind of have some would say an exotic taste in beer, because for me, a lot of it's about the alcohol percentage. I'm trying to get the stronger beers, but that turns a lot of people off.
Right.
Especially this time of year, the imperial stouts, imperial porters, they're dark, they're rich, they're chocolatey, they're thick, they're
warming. They're good winter beers. Like, people tend to think like the darker the light gets, the darker your beer needs to be, which is the thing I'm trying to dissuade them of, because I want dark beers in the summer.
I do like dark beers when it gets dark out, but the correct answer was Miller High Life.
Miller High Life.
The champagne of beers.
Champagne of beers.
It's been called the champagne of beers.
Claire Morneau from Sissam.
Okay, well, not to move the topic away from beers, but I'm curious about other local products that you have, like ciders, wines, that sort of thing.
Actually, right behind you is the local wine selection, as you see the sign that says local. Kristie can go more into that.
Kristie Faufaw?
The big one is Hardwick and then Black Birch. And we've had a few others. It just really what a price point.
Yeah.
Cider, we have all the locals, Headwater, West County, as far away as Eden. Like in the world of alcohol, like New England for distilleries and ciders would be local. For Sissam, you're talking 50 miles.
So other ciders, like she said, Headwater, West County, those all come in bigger bottles, so they're kind of like a craft cider, where something like Storm Along, they're in 4-pack cans, and they're one of my favorite brands. They're from Central Mass. Artifact is down in Northampton, I believe. They're a huge seller here. They're great. Carlson's is a newer one that we've just brought in, but they're doing very well as well.
Distilleries is the big thing.
Because Ryan and Casey Liquor Distillery.
Ryan and Casey Liquors cares about those distillers, yes. So Berkshire Mountain Distillers, and then Silver Barrel over in Dalton. And we've got a few others like Litchfield. Those are all the top.
I feel like there's been slower movement in like the liquor and distilling world locally than there has been in like say beer or cider. Do you know why that's true?
I think it's more expensive to start up with that level of proof.
Because from a licensing standpoint or from an equipment standpoint?
Licensing and equipment, but look at what the competition is. A large marketed brand like Smirnoff, Stoli, Absolute, you're going to compete with that. You need to find your little niche that cares.
Right.
And right here in our valley, people care about local. So
We do have V1.
Yes, we do. Yes, we can't forget Paul.
Before we move off of ciders, Four Phantoms Brewing, which is right down the road from us, they're actually coming out with meads and ciders in the spring. And the ciders are going to be made with the apples from Pine Hill, which is up in Coleraine. So that's really all around a local project.
Awesome. Yeah. And they're awesome. They do a bunch of they host local events, and they were testing out that cider at the Heavy Music Festival.
You know what else is exciting that's fun to have is Princess Water.
I heard about this. My friend Ringo, the spirit guide, has been trying to push this on me. Tell me about what this is.
Let's go over here.
All right,
you know what? I will bring you a can. Someone brought one to Friendsgiving, and I don't know who it is, and they're glad that I don't know.
So it comes in a pink can.
It's vodka and soda. Here.
We're going to drink it.
Tasting cups.
Never too early for some vodka water.
Great brand. So what's great about carrying local stuff is there's always something new.
Yeah.
And it's fun to be the store that's, you guys have everything new. If I can't find it here, I'm not going to find it anywhere.
Is there anything sort of interesting to note about how it is different to work with smaller local businesses as opposed to like the big? Are there challenges there that are?
So we are fortunate enough where all our relationships are good, whether it's a big Girardi who's with Budweiser or whether it's a small local guy. So we are very fortunate to have that. But we love working with the local people because we're able to do special things that we aren't with the bigger guys. Like we actually acquire barrels of whiskey, and then we give them to local breweries such as Pioneer Valley and Turner's or Element and Miller's, and then they actually put their beer in it, and then it's kind of a collaboration project between the two of us.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah.
That's wicked exciting.
You guys carry Stoneman, and it's like he's not working with anybody.
Well,
Yeah, we had to go find the Stone Man in the hills that one time.
Corby, that's another plus. Ryan and Casey Liquor's known for taking in whatever's new and local. We'll give you a shot, and then you treat them right, and they're going to look out for you and have the product in here for you.
Who are Ryan and Casey? I don't think I've ever known this. I mean, I know it's Ryan and Casey Liquors, but your name is Kristie. This is Isaac.
Yeah.
You've been here forever, Kristie. Who are Ryan and Casey?
Okay, Mr. Ryan and Mr. Casey was a lawyer and a realtor. The earliest back we can find a liquor license is 1908.
Wow.
On Ames Street. In 1959, Henry White, my partner's dad, bought it, moved it to this spot. This is where the Colonial Restaurant used to be. It had burnt partially, so our office is actually the stage.
Oh, wow.
The beer coolers are actually where there was a beer garden out back behind this restaurant, and it's just grown. There's like 4 additions to this place that we have to work with. A lot of people walk in and say, whoa, you don't see a store like this anymore. We fill up every little spot, and I often wonder what they would think. So we've got the Founding Fathers collaboration beer.
Aha, tell me about this, Isaac.
That was such a great tie-in because I was just mentioning the beers we do with Pioneer Valley. So we actually have a series with them called the Founding Fathers series, and it has a picture on the label of the original Ryan and Casey's. There they are right there. And this particular one is a barrel-aged stout in a Maker's Mark barrel that we acquired, and it's quite delicious.
Nice.
I feel like
Back to the dark beer.
a realtor and a lawyer start a liquor store sounds like the beginning of a joke. I don't know what the punchline is.
Then Prohibition kicks in and they figure out a way to legally bootleg.
They did what is Glenwood Springs and Ryan and Casey's soda. So they made it through, they just missed the Spanish flu, right? They made it through Prohibition by doing that. Then they, what did they add? Excise to alcohol, increased the prices. They made it through that. We made it through COVID. We made it through a couple of hurricanes.
Back to the cans. You've opened the Princess Water.
The Princess Water is actually like pink.
It's what would be considered a rosé in wine, but it is not pink.
No, like ballet shoe pink.
Yeah, right. Canned cocktails. They're some people's bag.
There's a few other local canned cocktails. Element actually has them. They do beer. They do their own spirits. They even do some harder to find spirits. They do an absinthe. They do limoncello.
Wow,
They do
cool.
triple sec. Yeah, a lot of
And you
people
can
don't
get them
know that.
here, or do you have to go there?
You can get them here. And we do have their canned cocktails, too, which are extremely reasonably priced.
You know who we can't forget is the River Valley vodka and the gin.
Yeah, I love them.
These do very well too.
And the labels are amazing, and the people that
Nice
are making that
artwork.
is cool, are
Yeah,
really
nice
cool. It's fun to
artwork.
go visit them there in East Hampton. I think they're making it still, right?
Yeah.
So Ryan and Casey Liquors is not the only store that's part of this family, right? You also own Cold River. I don't want to get the
Cold River Package and Market. Yeah, in Charlemont.
You got to do the whole name, or
I
Kristie
don't wanna
gets
get the
wicked
name
mad.
wrong. Can you tell us about that and how the two work together, if at all?
We had an opportunity to acquire the tiny little postage stamp store that was right next to the on Long Bridge.
Yeah.
Right next to the road, and there's no way that was gonna work with the plan we had. We had to acquire the house next door, tore it down. Isaac's dad, my husband, built something that fit into the age of the architecture in the town. So it looks like a big old farmhouse with a barn. There's actually a tap room. Dirt Church Brewing from Vermont is there, and this is their tap room because they love the mountain bike scene at Berkshires and the ski scene.
Yeah.
And then we've got the package and market. We don't just have beer, wine, liquor. So you've got a lot of local products in the syrups, the honeys, the ciders, the vinegars. We have our own line of barbecue sauces and dressings and pickles and jams and all that too. Yeah, that is a fun store.
Yeah.
You get a lot of tourists, a lot of skiers, a lot of mountain bikers, campers. So
How does the local percentage of what's in the store when you started compare to now?
a lot more. People want it. So you get it. You know, they ask for something, you get it.
I'm curious how many there were to work with when you took over this store as opposed to now when there's lots.
It was just the 8 cooler doors. And then as craft brewers came to us, I can remember BBC, People's Pint, and Dogfish. Remember when $10 a 6-pack was expensive?
Yeah.
And people were like, oh my God, what's that beer on your shelf? And then we expanded with these coolers and then the built-in coolers down the side so you can see what's happened in 20 years. And don't forget the brew fests.
Yeah, right.
Oh, yeah.
Once craft brews started getting big, we started doing brew fest to showcase things and teach people a little something about what they're tasting. And Isaac was there.
You probably grew up doing all that.
I did. I was probably
You're a young man.
12 to 15 years old doing
He's
that.
12 to 15 years old now.
And then it got too big, so we moved to the fairgrounds, which was great.
What are the trends right now? IPAs and New England IPAs and hazy IPAs have been really popular for way longer than I anticipated they would be. But what are the trends in beer, especially local beer right now, Isaac?
Lagers and pilsners and stouts and porters are definitely making a way back.
Thank God.
Yes, definitely.
More variety is better.
IPAs are still very popular, of course, but over the last couple years, sours also blew up.
Yeah.
But even that is starting to diminish, and like I said, lagers, pilsners, stuff like that. So the traditional styles people want.
They're less expensive, so it was genius of BBC to put their canned lager and pilsner out there.
They're easier to drink, but they're hard to do well. You want to taste what's there. You want the hops to be light but present. And a lot of people kind of miss the mark in one way or another on lagers. But also, the price point's so low that, you don't really mind.
But there's a reason Budweiser's #1 still. Mass-produced pilsner.
BBC's lager is actually the same exact price as Budweiser, so that's pretty great that a local company is able to do that.
And it's all being made right here in our backyard. Lunch stop on day 2 of the march last week.
Where the rain stopped.
Where the rain stopped and the sun came out, yeah. So there will always be a warm place in my heart for BBC and our buddy Gary over there.
I'm just curious about the holidays and what you've got in stock that you want to highlight.
Element is now into distilling products. We have a little co-packs of pints and half pints of triple sec, limoncello, little gins that are fun. The maple cream liqueurs, the maple bourbons. People enjoy giving things from around here to the folks that aren't from around here. So,
How hard or important was it to start making things underneath the Ryan and Casey label? Things that were
Ryan Casey Liquor.
Ryan and Casey Liquor label.
when bourbon blew up, it just kind of legitimizes what you know and what you offer by having a single barrel. It's exciting to people. It's kind of like the beer followers. What's new this month? Who's got something new out? This is something they can't get anywhere else.
Well, I think as far as beer goes, that's part of the fun is that it's constantly changing. We get like 30 new beers in a week. So we're not always having like 10 cases of one kind. We sometimes only get 5. That way it sells out and then we can get the new thing in, you know what I mean? And there's a lot of smaller breweries around here like Little Willow down in Florence. They're only giving us a case or 2 at a time and those are selling out very quickly. People's Pint, a lot of their specialty ones, like they just did the Lookie beer. We got like 1 case at first, and in 2 days it was gone, and people kept coming in asking for more. So
Collab with Lookie here, the little store.
Yes.
Yeah, cool.
Yep.
You just get more support when it's a local brand.
Well, thanks for taking time with us during your busy holiday season, selling beer and wine and liquors here at Ryan and Casey Liquors.
What's your current favorite local beer?
I wasn't gonna ask it.
Pick your favorite child.
Well, I have a bunch of answers. I could give you answers for 20 minutes. Right around Christmas, BBC's coming out with their Snow Day Stout. It's a peanut butter stout. It's 9.5%, but there's actually no peanut butter in it. They used peanut butter flavored coffee to give it a peanut butter taste without there being peanut butter. So it's really good. People's Pint, they have their Nova Scotia with Love. It's an Imperial Stout, 12% with spruce tips. That one's amazing. Stone Man, all his dark beers are great. Jack's Abbey, they have a cranberry orange lager. It's called Chaos Cranberry, I believe. It's really good, really drinkable, so a little lighter, 5.5%, 6%. So those are some of my favorites.
Some of is always a good way to answer that question, especially if you own a store and you want to keep relationships alive.
Give a disclaimer, if I've left anybody out, I really apologize.
Thanks again to Kristie and Isaac at Ryan and Casey Liquors on Main Street in Greenfield.
Gotta include it every time now.
And to our friend Claire from Sissam, the local hero, folks. Now, a bit of local music to soothe the holiday blahs with Erin McKeown, who plays the Iron Horse tomorrow night.
You're listening to the Fabulous 413 on 88.5 NEPM.
The Fabulous 413 podcast is funded by UMass Amherst School of Public Policy, offering graduate programs in public affairs, public policy and administration, data analytics, and computational social science. umass.edu/SPP.
A deadly nightshade.
Welcome back to the Fabulous 413. It's Live Music Friday and Bandcamp Friday, where you can grab many of this next artist's albums, but we digress.
If you're tired of holiday hype or gritting your teeth until New Year's Eve, you have company. Erin McKeown is too, and tomorrow, December 7th, they'll bring their distinctly anti-holiday show to the Iron Horse, filled with profanity, irreverence, and just plain bad behavior. Bleep You Too is the antidote to all that annoying holiday spirit.
It's the world's first anti-capitalist, pro-queer, suspicious of Christmas as patriotism, sex-positive, not safe for work, multi-ethnic, radical leftist, anti-holiday show. There is nothing redeeming about Christmas in any part of this show.
A sequel to their previous show, Bleep That. Returning for the first time since 2013, Erin McKeown will perform all their signature anti-holiday classics, plus new songs written explicitly for 2024, along with a crowd-sourced choir of cranky carolers. We might try to solicit some cranky carolers for this Live Music Friday, because there's an audience in the other room, Erin McKeown here, watching you. Yeah, we're going to get them in here so that you sing the...
We'll fix it.
Yeah, we shall fix it. Well, let's start off with an anti-holiday classic, Erin McKeown.
Yeah, well, as you mentioned, I can't really say the name of the album or the show, and
Right.
many of the songs can't be played on the radio.
Yeah.
Which was like shooting myself in the foot, probably.
I know, but it probably feels good to let all that out,
Boy,
right?
it feels really good right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're going to start out with this one, which is safe for the radio, but not safe for your mother. So this one is from the mother's perspective. After Memorial Day, Labor Day, 4th of July, Easter, President's Day, St. Patrick's Day, Cinco de Mayo, Thanksgiving, Valentine's Day, my birthday, your birthday, everybody's birthday, and Flag Day. My favorite holiday is Christmas. So let's celebrate and take a trip someplace special, someplace hip, someplace where we can relax and play. I know, let's head home for the holidays. Because at this most painful time of the year, things are bound to get a little queer. Well, hello, it's good to see you, though we wish you'd come alone. But since you brought your friend, it's a very queer Christmas. Let me show you where you'll stay. Do you see these separate twin beds? One for you and for your friend. It's a very queer Christmas. Oh, we'll decorate the tree like we did when you were small. Before you cut your hair off, I'm trying to act natural. I'm trying to act natural. I've cooked all your favorite foods. What do you mean you don't eat meat? You're vegetarian and you're gay. It's a very queer Christmas. I hope you brought some nicer clothes. You should really learn to dress. We're expecting you at church. It's a very queer Christmas. Oh, the stockings have been hung, 2 for every happy couple, except for yours, which hangs alone. I tell everyone you're too busy to have a boyfriend. Too busy to have a boyfriend. Cousin Kelly got a job. She and Rob are doing great. So I wrote this song in 2011. And some things have changed. So Cousin Kelly is not with Rob anymore. She's happily remarried, though. So Cousin Kelly got a job. She and Dan are doing great. When will you quit that music? It's a very queer Christmas. So the family's coming soon. Do you think you could keep this quiet? It's just your grandma's not dead yet. And that, yeah. That also has changed. It's a very queer Christmas. Oh, we'll gather around the table in love and joy and grace. I will smile, but inside I'm really dying. Why'd you ruin Christmas? Why'd you ruin Christmas? Why'd you ruin Christmas? It's a very queer Christmas. It's a very queer Christmas.
Erin McKeown, A Very Queer Christmas
Did
from
I
her
get you guys?
anti-holiday album.
Did I get you?
What do you mean, get me?
I love it so much.
Here's the thing. That song is really funny, but my heart breaks.
No.
I get all emotional.
It's both. It
because
has to be
it's
both.
like,
Yes.
this is
Yeah.
not an untrue situation for you, right?
It's 100% true.
Right. And
no,
so,
this
like,
is a true story.
As a parent, first of all, full disclosure, I've known Erin McKeown for 25 years.
Yeah.
And virtually everything I know about queerness, I learned from you at the start.
Yes, it's
and
true.
now I have, a very gay son. And,
Beautiful family.
And
yeah.
you know them all well. But I mean, my heart breaks as a parent that somebody made you go through that. So I was
know.
on the verge of crying tears of sadness while laughing out loud during that song.
Which is exactly what this whole project is.
Right?
Right? I can't, function with the level of grief and sorrow
Yeah.
in the world, but also, in my family.
Yeah.
Without, doing something with it.
Right.
And I think that, even if Christmas is your favorite time of year, I know you love Christmas.
I do.
Yeah. But even if it's your favorite time of year, I think most people can appreciate that it might be hard for other people, and it's actually quite generous to, make some space for that. And, I have had a few people walk out. I have had a few people be upset about this project.
Why? Do they not know what the name of the show was?
Well,
the description for the show is pretty explicit
It's
about
gotten
what's
clearer
going to
over
happen.
the years.
Yes.
I have to tell you.
Out of necessity,
Yeah,
probably.
out of necessity.
But also, I feel like there's nothing so serious there are very few things so serious that you shouldn't be able to laugh about them at all.
Yeah, and I also think that I term it reverent irreverence. Which is just hold things loosely and you keep them longer. And I think, obviously people that are very tightly wound about Christmas, that might be holding something else that has nothing to do with me.
Right.
So I, we had our first show in Chicago on Tuesday night, and I hadn't done the show in 13 years. And it was so fun, and it was chaos and laughter and on the edge of tears, and it just felt really right for this time right now.
Well, this show is coming back to Northampton at the Iron Horse, which is back this year, and we are speaking with Erin McKeown this Live Music Friday. Now, we have a version of Erin McKeown's 12 Days of Christmas that Khalees and I have already agreed to sing on. But if anybody over there who's in the other room watching Erin McKeown wants to come in here and do this new version of it, let's take a little break.
So you have time to get in here.
And then we will hear Erin McKeown's The 12 Crises of Christmas from the new anti-holiday EP.
You're listening to The Fabulous 413 on 88.5 NEPM.
First I laugh and then I cry. We don't know what
Welcome back to the Fabulous 413. That is from Erin McKeown's anti-holiday, fabulous album, and there will be a show tomorrow in Northampton at the Iron Horse, virtually sold out. So
it's pretty close. So,
yeah,
let's get over the top.
Yeah, let's get it over the top, and you're running out of time. So let's hear. This is from a new holiday EP.
Yeah, that's right. I had kept a notes app on my phone for the last 14 years of ideas of anti-holiday songs, which would occur to me all the time, and I would just jot them down in this little app that went phone to phone to phone, and this was one of them.
Well, and we're joined in the studio by John Sutton and Sonia Lee, and it's not even a fun drive. They are going to sing along with Khalees and I on this new version of the 12 Crises of Christmas.
This is the lifeblood of this project, right? Is the chaos. We have not rehearsed. No one knows how it's going to go. This is exactly the anti-holiday spirit.
Beauty of the holidays. If it's not chaos, how can you tell if we really celebrate it?
That's correct. All right, here we go. On the morning of Christmas, a crisis came to be, a fire in the living room tree. On the morning of Christmas, a crisis came to be, Preston's new pronouns and a fire in the living room tree. Yeah, feel free to sing all of it. Here we go.
No.
1, 2, 3. On the morning of Christmas, a crisis came to be, 3 unexpected guests, Preston's new pronouns and a fire in the living room tree. That's it. That's the holiday spirit. Here we go. On the morning of Christmas, a crisis came to be, 4 uncles choking, 3 unexpected guests, Preston's new pronouns and a fire in the living room tree. On the morning of Christmas, a crisis came to be, 5 toddlers underfoot, 4 uncles choking, 3 unexpected guests, Preston's new pronouns and a fire in the living room tree. On the morning of Christmas, a crisis came to be, 6 partners fighting, 5 toddlers underfoot, 4 uncles choking, 3 unexpected guests, Preston's new pronouns and a fire in the living room tree. I'm loving this. Here we go, New England Public Radio. 1, 2, 3. On the morning of Christmas, a crisis came to be, 7 puppies eating chocolate, 6 partners fighting, 5 toddlers underfoot, 4 uncles choking, 3 unexpected guests, Preston's new pronouns and a fire in the living room tree.
Here's a good one.
On the morning of Christmas, a crisis came to be, 8 fascists at the table, 7 puppies eating chocolate, 6 partners fighting, 5 toddlers underfoot, 4 uncles choking, 3 unexpected guests, Preston's new pronouns and a fire in the living room tree. Oh, on the morning of Christmas, a crisis came to be, 9 feet of snow, 8 fascists at the table, 7 puppies eating chocolate, 6 partners fighting, 5 toddlers underfoot, 4 uncles choking, 3 unexpected guests, Preston's new pronouns and a fire in the living room tree. This is the worst one of all. Here it comes. On the morning of Christmas, a crisis came to be, 10 velvet bows, 9 feet of snow, 8 fascists at the table, 7 puppies eating chocolate, 6 partners fighting, 5 toddlers underfoot, 4 uncles choking, 3 unexpected guests, Preston's new pronouns and a fire in the living room tree. What a great Christmas. On the morning of Christmas, a crisis came to be, 11 shady cousins, 10 velvet bows, 9 feet of snow, 8 fascists at the table, 7 puppies eating chocolate, 6 partners fighting, 5 toddlers underfoot, 4 uncles choking, 3 unexpected guests, Preston's new pronouns and a fire in the living room tree.
Last one.
On the morning of Christmas, a crisis came to be,
Oh no, Grandma fell again. 11 shady cousins, 10 velvet bows, 9 feet of snow, 8 fascists at the table, 7 puppies eating chocolate, 6 partners fighting, 5 toddlers underfoot, 4 uncles joking, 3 unexpected guests, Preston's new pronouns, and a fire in the living room tree.
Woo! Erin McKeown, The 12 Crises of Christmas, with an assist from John Sutton and Sonia Lee.
Oh my goodness, thank you. Thank you.
What makes a good carol to really subvert?
It's got to be something that people know backwards and forwards, right? The 12 Crises of Christmas, I never touched an instrument to write it.
Right.
You know, I was literally like laid up in bed and like tapping these songs out with my thumbs. And like the first time it ever got played was the first time there was ever music involved, you know? So it's got to be something that people know. And, you know, I have another sadly not useful one now called Kamala Ye Faithful.
I heard that one.
Right?
Yeah.
Which is, you know, the same thing. We all know, O come, all ye faithful. So it allows us to get rid of rhyme schemes. It allows us to put, like, words that you would never sing, like federal abortion rights, ceasefire solutions, into a song because we know that melody so well. And also these traditional songs, you know, they have such easy to sing melodies and such like nice, they go up, then they go down, and then they sort of neatly close. And so they're easy to learn. And look at how fast NEPM learned how to sing
we
the
did
12 Crises of
zero
Christmas.
rehearsals. But luckily you get 12 rehearsals
Yeah,
in the course of
by
that one
the end,
song.
which it matters, but it only matters by the end, right? So by the end, we're like all on the same page. So
patterns are useful.
Yes. Well, we only have a minute left, Erin McKeown, but you are going to perform your anti-holiday show tomorrow at the Iron Horse. A smattering of tickets still available. And you came on the March for the Food Bank. This was not your first time. You did the part of the rainiest day, and I just wanted to thank you so much for being a part of that.
And I, like, my people from social media, online, and whatever, like, raised more money than I've ever raised before.
Oh, that's
which is
great.
amazing.
I love
So,
that. That's so great.
Me too. Thank
And
you
a
for
quick
all the work.
reminder that it is Bandcamp Friday, the day that Bandcamp waives all of its fees. So if you like Erin McKeown's music, go to their Bandcamp page and buy some of their albums.
I'm Monty Belmonte.
I'm Clea Smith. We'll talk to you on Monday on the Fabulous 413. Because there are drag queens next week and it's going to be awesome.
What do you mean you don't eat meat? You're vegetarian and you're